What is up, everybody? This is the Pinstripe Chronicles. This is your host, Donald, for today. I'm in the host chair, but I've got my guy, Uncle T, right beside me, and I got my brother, Rob, and we will be bringing some more Yankee content to you today. Thank you so much for everyone in the chat already, bright and early. I can see it. Let's get those likes up. Let's get those comments in the chat. Let's get this thing moving. And we such an honor once again. We've been looking at our views over the last couple of weeks, and it's at the all-time high for us. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for your support. It is freaking awesome, and your loyalty is much appreciated. And we do love bringing content to you guys so often this week. So it's been a fun week for us, but a bad week for the Yankees. Swept, and as Rob said, we could face Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and not get a single hit. And the Yankees have basically had faced the equivalent of that over the last few weeks and are 1-5 in this road trip. Sweep off the Angels and just awful against the Rockies. And this is the story. So this is where we're at. We're last place. As I said in our previous podcast, I said this is a last place organization. This is a last place operation. So how do we get out of this? So this is what our topic is today. How do we get out of this situation? Do we buy? Do we sell? We're in this predicament here where we're above 500. We're only 3.5 games out of the wild card. But then you look at the teams that we're competing against. You're looking at Toronto, who have always who have got an excellent team, much better team than we do, right? You look at the Astros, who always beat our asses for fun, right? So it's not just a case of 3.5 games. You got to overtake at least the Astros, and that's not going to be easy to do. We haven't really done it basically since 2017. So I'm not sure how optimistic I am that we're going to do that, but that's where we're at. We're in last place, but we're only 3.5 games out of the wild card. We're in a situation where you look at them, they're up and down, and there's not a lot of value. Like if you named a bunch of our guys, which guys actually has value for another major league roster? And you'd be surprised at how low it is. I think more value for our guys in the minor leagues than we do actually have in the major leagues. Obviously, Aaron Judge aside, best player in baseball. But apart from that, there's not a lot of value. And we're going to go through the roster, and we're going to gauge everyone's opinions on what you guys think we should do. Because we're in this predicament where we're only 3.5 games out. So, yeah, maybe add a couple pieces, and maybe we could generate a little bit of a run. But this thing isn't going to get fixed mid-season. This is an off-season job. So do we sell? We've already heard that Hal Steinbrenner kind of wants to get under that luxury tax threshold. So we'll need to shave at least a couple million off that in order to fulfill that. So yeah, that's where we're at right now, people. So good to see Jonathan in the chat. Good morning. Good morning, NFE. And let's pass this on to my brother, Rob. Rob, what are you thinking, my guy? Where are you in buy or sell? What are you thinking?
Excuse me. I think we're in a limbo, right? We're in this, like, you're stuck in between right now because you're, like you just mentioned, we are, as bad as we played, we're still in reach of a wild card spot. So the playoffs are still very much a possibility with 2.5 months left. So you're like, no team is going to give up on that, especially when they're going to get their best player back and they're getting healthier. Every team uses that every year, but it's been so bad that you kind of want to see them sell off some pieces just because the players that are going to help you fix this thing are probably not going to be able to be acquired. Like, I don't think we're getting a Juan Soto. I don't think we're getting Shohei Ohtani. And those are like the only two players that kind of jump out at you as quick fixes that can help you win some ball games. And I don't know if any of the other names out there, like Bellinger would be nice, but he's not going to put you over the top. And I don't know if that player's out there just yet. So you might as well just see what you can get for some of the talent you have right now, whether it be rentals or Gleyber Torres, who has a year left of control. Herman has a year left of control. There are pieces they can move that actually wouldn't really hurt the team right now. There's a strange scenario where just by moving some players and giving other guys chances in the minor leagues, you could be a little bit better. And that's where the Yankees have to really they really have to use this period between now and the deadline to kind of assess, do we want to go for it all this year and push for that last spot in the wild card, or do we want to just still make a push but keep next year in mind, because 2024 has got to be like the goal right now, because right now 2023 just seems like a lost cause, especially when you still don't have a timetable on 99 returning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Uncle Tats, what do you think, my guy?
I've hit that point where you can have a team like the Yankees with the prestige of the Yankees, the financial backing of the Yankees, because they're not poor. We're not talking about a bottom-feeding team that is trying to figure it out. You can have a team that wins the division, right, and has the start of the year last year like it did, to be able to get that lead on everybody, and then go to this the following year. Especially we all saw that this was kind of starting to go into fruition way before getting swept by the Astros. Right? You brought up the Astros in 2017. It even goes back to 14 when Keuchel shut us down in that wild card game. I think that was when you really saw that this team structure was just really not going in the right direction, right? Because they were not a known team at that point. It's time to sell. I don't want to bring fresh. I don't want them I don't want them trading prospects for a guy like Bellinger, right? He's a great player, right? It's not that he wouldn't help, but he's not helping long term. Don't trade. Same thing. There were rumors going around about Salvi Perez. We already have catches in house. We don't need to make trades like that. You want to make a statement? Bring up Florial. You just put Donaldson on the 60-day. Free Florial. Hashtag free Florial until he gets his freaking ass up here. Just work with what you have in-house right now. Because unless you're going to eat everybody's contract, whether it's Donaldson, Rizzo, LeMahieu, there's no – you're not going to fix anything. Nothing's going to get fixed this season, so don't worry about this season.
I've taken your idea there, Tats, and created a new hashtag free flow. Agree with you entirely in regards to Florial situation. Actually, there was an Athletic article I was reading this morning, and that Florial is he's handling it well, but he's frustrated. I mean, he's got like 21 home runs. The last time I checked, in AAA, he's absolutely mashing. But the Yankees don't want to put him on the 40-man because they don't want to risk him being called up, and then if they sent him down, he'd have to go through waivers again or whatever. So because he doesn't have options, so they're going with these other dudes. It's crazy because you look at this outfield situation we have right now. We've got McKinney, you've got Franchy Cordero, who's bad. He's actually probably the worst breaking ball hitter in all of baseball. Unless you only throw him fastballs, he's not going to hit anything. So he can't hit anything off speed or any curveballs or anything like that. So he's a mess. You've got Ozzy Cabrera, love him, but he's an infielder. He's playing outfield, and you've got IKF, who's got an WRC plus of what, like 80 something, and that's well below average. So he's not doing anything. It's a merry-go-round in left field. It's a mess. We don't really have an outfield to speak of apart from Harrison Bader right now, and he's hurt. He's been hurt basically since we got him. So you look at our outfield situation, it is remarkable that this cost $300 million. Like, you have a $300 million roster, and there's not a single outfielder that you trust that I've just named right there. That's absolutely horseshit. And that's Brian Cashman. And I like Harrison Bader. He's great. He's got an incredible glove. Like, I love watching him track down balls and stuff like that. But he's not a great bat. He's not a great offensive threat. He's a guy that, would bat maybe 6th or 7th in the order. He's not someone that you want to rely on. He's never going to be someone to carry the team, as Rob pointed out on our Monday's podcast. So this is our situation. He's our only real major league outfielder. apart from Aaron Judge. That's a shame. That's shameful. So that's where we're at. So let's start with this roster. Let's have a look at this roster and let's see which candidates we could move on from, we should keep. So let's start with a catcher situation because Uncle Tats did touch on that. Would I make a deal for a catcher right now? My answer would be no. For the reason that I believe a catcher needs to have a relationship with the rotation and the bullpen arms, and I don't think it's one of those deals where that can be done just like that. It kind of reminds me of when the Yankees made a deal for Pudge Rodriguez mid-season. Like, did it make a massive difference to the Yankees? No, it didn't. They didn't even make the playoffs that year. So I think it's kind of, and there's no Pudge Rodriguez coming to save the Yankees. So you know what I mean? So like, I would just stick it out with what we have. You've got Rordvit, you've got Wells, you've got in AA. I'd maybe call Wells up to AAA, see how he adjusts, and maybe look to call him up in September. Trevino, Higashioka. It's not a major league offensive catching situation, but this is what the Yankees chose. And it's really important that we look at the narrative that the Yankees portray to us on an annual basis. You know, they remember when they were all in on Gary Sanchez, and they had a whole binder full of advanced stats, which was a whole lot of telling us how fantastic Gary Sanchez was as a catcher, when it was quite obvious that he couldn't protect balls, he couldn't keep balls in front of him. He was really struggling, right? But the narrative was, as long as he's just around league average as a catcher, his offense is going to carry the day, right? But now they've done a whole 180, and they're like, offense doesn't matter at catcher, defense only. So they got in Trevino, and they got Higashioka and Rordvett and all that. And now, we're a couple months in, and they're like, no, we need some offense at catcher. So this is, again, that's what I'm talking about. Brian Cashman doesn't run a championship caliber operation because it just seems that they're reactionary. Like they tell us one thing, and then they're like, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll need to change my mind on that. And they just keep kind of jumping back and forth, and we as a fan base just have to accept it. And honestly, Cashman doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore. No. So to start with the catcher situation, no, I don't make a move. I just stick it out with these guys. They're not horrible. They're good defensively. It needs to be changed in the offseason. This is an offseason move. We need to bring in a major league bat at catcher in the offseason. But for now, I just write it out with what we have. So we'll start with Uncle T. What do you think, man? Should we buy, sell in the catcher spot?
No, I don't think we should buy at all. I think what we should sell is one of our catchers and make room for Rordvett and get him up here.
Okay.
I know a lot of people would say, well, bring up Wells, but it goes, that would also go to your point where Wells doesn't have the major league experience yet. To bring him up now to work with this pitching staff that's already kind of hitting a bump in the road with the innings that they've had to pitch, and kind of slipping a little bit. I don't want to put that on Wells. So I would let him acclimate to this pitching staff in the offseason. Rordvett, not that he's had a long career, but he has the major league experience, and he's already in the organization. So I would have more comfort with him coming up than Wells. So that's what I would do. I would try to move Trevino or Higgy, package him in a deal with somebody, and give Rordvett the everyday spot. And
do you think that because Higashioka caught a perfect game that he deserves the rest of the year, or no?
No, he's had a couple of good games. He calls good games. I don't want to take that away from him, but he's not contributing anymore. The offense is abysmal. Even with Trevino. He had a career year.
He's been worse. Trevino's arguably been worse.
Yeah, last year he had a career year. We all appreciated it. And it's something that we're going to keep going back to. Well, remember the year we had that. But that's all, it's not like he's this, future, superstar that we're trying to, work with. It wouldn't hurt me if one of those guys got moved in a deal. It really wouldn't.
At the moment, I really like Trevino's defense, but he's actually had a worse season than Higashioka, and that scares me because I don't think Higashi was any good. Rob, what are you thinking, man, on the catcher spot?
I agree that we should sell one of those guys, trade one of them. Maybe Trevino has more value since he's got more service. He's got more years on contract. He's got arbitration, 2 more years, I think, where Higgy has 1. Years of control, that's what I was trying to say. So maybe a team needs a backup catcher that can be there for defense. But I completely disagree about Austin Wells. I say call him up right now. He's been with the team longer than Rortvedt. And Carlos Rodon liked the way he caught him in Double-A in his rehab. And if you're getting a good review from Rodon, who I know he's been terrible so far, but it's only 3 starts coming back from an injury, he knows catchers. Like he's a good pitcher. I like the fact that he gave Wells a good review there. I'd call him up right now because you need the offense. And I feel like he can do, even if, like you said, when Gary Sanchez first got here, he was just kind of like average behind the plate, but it wasn't killing us. There were times where it hurt us, sure. I don't think Austin Wells is going to be like that when it comes to the pass balls and all that, but you need the bat. And we all know what a lefty can do in Yankee Stadium. I'd call both of them up if we be perfectly honest. Rortvedt and Wells can both get up here if that's what they want. One offensive, one defensive. You can get Higgy off the books. You can get Trevino. I don't think you trade both of them, but
trade one of them. Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that.
Definitely trade one of them and get Austin Wells up here. He's 24 and he's still in Double-A. He could skip Triple-A altogether. He's had enough experience, in my opinion. I'd get him up here.
He's had a good year in Double-A, am I right?
Fine, he's had fine numbers. No, I don't have it right in front of me, but I can definitely pull them up.
Yeah, you get those stats up, and while you do that, I'll say hello to everybody in the chat because we actually have quite a good chat today. Jonathan, I'm not sure if Soto will help this year. I agree. Sunil, shout out my guy. I'll take the Pearl Jam approach. # even flow. Even flow. Elliot Spencer got talking about Pudge Rodriguez. It was short. It was sweet. It was very short. Elliot also says, quick sidebar, major news, Tony Bennett passed away in 96. Oh, man. We love Tony Bennett. Rest in peace. NFE, Cashman deserves more blame than Boom. There's no doubt about that. 100%. Absolutely 100%. That is facts. Elliot, state of the New York Yankees is no one is off limits. That is also facts, apart from obviously Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. Sunil agrees with the panel. Bring both of them up, Rortvedt and Wells. One for catcher, one for first base. Rizzo needs to be moved on from. Interesting. We're going to get into Rizzo next. Jonathan Wells should be up. I agree. I would love to see Wells up. Actually, I think Rob and Tats are right on that. I think that if you put him up in a situation with a defensive guy, so either Higashioka or Trevino, in my opinion, could mentor Wells, and then you go Wells offense there, and it's a good bat to have. Rob, have you got some of his numbers there?
I do. I got his Double-A numbers here. He's 237 with a 327 on base, 443 slugging, and 770 OPS, which would be the top on our team right now. 11 home runs, 50 RBIs.
50.
I mean, he has struck out 60 times in 228 at-bats, so it's not the worst I've ever seen, but look, he's going to be 24.
At the time, so he's striking out around about 20%. Okay.
He's going to be 24. And catcher is a very valuable position in the minor league system. Now, a lot of people think he's going to be a first baseman moving forward. I don't see why we can't give him a shot behind the plate. Because even if he is just league average, we're seeing right now that having a platinum glove catcher isn't necessarily helping this team right now.
It's true.
So if you go back to what it was with Gary Sanchez in 2016, 2017, and prior to his injuries and when they broke him in 2018, you can win with that because that was the best our offense had been in a long time when we had 2017 Gary, who was just hitting all sides of the field, hitting for power, and you didn't care about his defense, and the pitchers seemed to be fine throwing him. We had good years from Tanaka that year, Severino, CC was still pitching at a good level, the bullpen was still locked down, and Gary Sanchez was catching all those guys. So you can win with a below average or league average catcher defensively, but you need the bat, and we desperately need the offense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Rortvedt can give you that offense that Wells could. I think Rortvedt can have a much better impact with the bat than Higgy or Trevino could, just because he's a lefty and our ballpark is tailor-made for lefties. But Wells is known for having the bat. And we talked to Julian weeks ago, and he mentioned his bat is ready. They just need to work on that glove. So that's probably why they won't do it, and they'd want to see him in AAA before. But the fact that he's not in AAA yet is just another just glowing review on this organization. How is he not at least in AAA yet? Because you called up Pereira quickly, who's killing it. I'd like to see him up. We could talk about him later. But why is Austin Wells not there? I get we have like 80 catchers in our system, and a lot of these guys are shooting up the system quickly, but he's your top guy at the position. Why is he not in AAA yet?
Well, I think a case could be made that you actually spend too long in one part of the minors. And I think that's what they're doing with Wells. Like, I think Wells has done everything that needs to be done in AA. Like, what more does he need to prove? Like, with defensively, okay, but I think at this stage, I think he's almost evening out. I think it's like, I don't think he's gonna. I think his numbers could actually progress if they moved him to AAA. Is more my point, because obviously, striking at 20% of the time, 220 batting average, not great, but the power's there, the RBIs are there, the homers are there. I think they should be promoting him, and I completely agree with that, because I just. What I said all season long is I just don't see the point in using quadruple A guys like the McKinneys and the Allens and all these guys, and the Frenchies, and numerous others. I don't see the point in using those guys above what we have in our minors. I want to learn something from what we have in our minors, because you actually learn about the state of your organization, and then it gives you an idea of whether to buy or sell in these points, and which guys are going to be valuable, which guys are going to be keepers, which guys are movable trade assets, and you learn a lot more by using your minor league system. And the Yankees seem to be the only team that I'm aware of that does this, where they basically keep your guys in the minors and are using all these quadruple A guys that you're never going to learn anything from. I mean, even if they do well, you're never going to use them long term, so you've not learned anything. And if they suck, well, you've not learned anything anyway, because we'd expected them to suck. So that's the point. It's just like, it's like the Yankees just don't have a direction. Sneal's got a really good point here. Donald, did you watch NYYST last night? I bugged the shit out of SCR to do his Cashman impersonation on how he feels about the fan base wanting him fired. He did a spot.
It was hilarious. It was so spot on.
Right. I'll watch it tonight and I'll get back to you soon.
Yeah. But to your point,
guys are fantastic. They are really, really good.
See, that's why I don't want this trade deadline to be the same rinse and repeat from the last, from the previous few years. Yeah. I'd rather than, I know I said Rortvedt, but you guys make excellent points on Wells as well. I stand by what I said, but I also acknowledge that you guys bring solid points at the same time. So it's really one or the other. I don't think it's going to be detrimental to any progress for the season.
Yeah. But we all agree as a panel that.
But the problem is, hold on, Donald. The problem is, if they keep going the same route and all the talk is about Salvi Perez, we're going to get the same bullshit that we keep getting, where we'll get 2 weeks of hot play and then ice cold again. And it's going to be the same thing. We're going to be all fired up, World Series back on, and then we're just going to get disappointed again. If the ship is going down, use the passengers already on the ship and just give them their chance to save it. Yeah, bring up these guys from the minor leagues.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially with Wells. The one thing that stood out to me while you guys were talking, you keep referring to his age at 24. We have teams that we're applauding that they're bringing up these guys as young as 20, 21, 22. We wait until they're almost, they're 25 or up or older. Then we give them their shot. It really, except for like Glaber. I know we give with Volpe, Peraza, Cabrera. You're seeing some of the younger guys. Let keep it going. Look what it's done with Baltimore. I think they're the prime example right now. Don't waste your youth sitting in the minor leagues to get extra at bats, which we all means is another
Service
way
time
of manipulating service time.
Yeah. Sorry to rush you. It's just we've got so many positions we need to touch on. So
No.
We'll move on. So first base on Anthony Rizzo. His situation is bizarre. So as of May 20th, he's not hit a home run since May 20th. He's actually got the fourth worst WRC plus, which is obviously an advanced metric. People that aren't aware of it, it's the fourth worst in that metric in all of baseball. So he's the fourth worst hitter in that area. And so I think whether you're a stat guy, analytics guy, doesn't matter. Long story short, he's been horrendous since May 20th. We can all agree on that. But awesome guy, winner, one of the best first basemen of this modern era, in my opinion. He's a phenomenal first baseman. He's a winner. He was a legend of the Chicago Cubs, and he came here really looking great. And it's just, I don't know what's going on. It looks like he's aged a lot. He's one guy that you would love to keep, but I don't know what's going on with him. So keep him, trade him at the deadline, or even going into the offseason. Let's start with Rob.
I don't think you can trade him. I don't know who's taking him right now. You can try to put out some feelers, like, okay, well, what would it take for you to take Rizzo off our hands plus his contract? Because again, he's getting I think it's $17 million, but it's $20 million against the tax with the bonuses and all that. So, is anyone going to take $20 million next year for a guy that's clearly starting to hit it a little bit? Like he's definitely declining. I don't know if it's going to be a steep decline. I don't think this is him because his fall off happened conveniently after getting that neck injury, and they continue to still say he's okay, but he's been awful ever since then. So I don't know if it's going to happen at some point this year, because we know around this time, or at least in a month or so, that back starts to creep up on him. But I don't know if there's a market for him right now. He's older. He's got a big contract, and he's terrible. Like if he was still hitting and the Yankees were hovering at 500, you probably get some offers for him. But right now, who's taking Anthony Rizzo? The guy like you just mentioned, his weighted runs created plus is one of the worst in the league. And he's not hitting for power. That's the one thing you could say that he could do that would bring, and he's got a good glove, but he's not hitting. The power is gone. He's got warning track power at this point, and he's striking out a ton, which he never does that much at least. And his contact is just shot. Like he's rolling over pitches. He's a double play machine. He's a rally killer. Right now, this is it's like Anthony Rizzo got switched with Lyle Overbet. That's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I don't know if it's the neck, if it's the back. Are they hiding something? Is he hiding something? Is he just stuck in this rut that because the whole team is struggling, he's trying to be that guy because he's like the leader without Judge there. He's like that guy with Stanton, but they're both struggling. So it's impossible for one guy to carry an offense unless you're Aaron Judge. Maybe he's trying too hard. That's always the case when there's struggles, but I doubt there's a team that takes him on. If there is, I applaud that team for trying to take a shot and fixing him quickly, but I just don't think you move on from him yet. I think you got to try to get him back to just being the guy he was, not even pre-injury, but just the guy he was when we got him in 2021, just a good hitter. Professional.
Could the panel answer this question? Quick question. When was Rizzo an elite hitter? He's always been a clutch guy, but he's a career 260 hitter. What are you guys' thoughts on that question?
I think the elite mark is more of his overall baseball abilities, not specific to his hitting, because his defense is elite. He is one of the one of the best defensive first basemen that we've had in a long time, and he has, everybody around the league always said, they always applaud his defensive abilities. If the ball is thrown to him, 99.9% of the time, you're out. His ability to stretch, his ability to scoop the balls, that's where he's elite, Nick. It's more of the overall play, not one side or the other.
I mean, to be fair, between those 4 seasons, between 2015 and 2018, he had 101 RBIs, 109 RBIs, 109 RBIs, 101 RBIs, and bat around about 280, 290.
His OPS was well over 800 to 900 every year. So his prime, he was an elite hitter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent hitter. Won a championship. Cubs fans loved him. I think he's better than our commenter is giving him credit for. But I get that. I'm just trying to be diplomatic as your family member. But I think Rizzo's better than is giving credit for. But yeah, we're in this situation where nothing is off the table. We can say that. But it's just so strange because prior to May 20th, Rizzo was the one guy that we could hang our hat on. This is a guy that was batting over 300 and was hitting a home run every other day. He was looking great. Had this injury, and now he can't hit worth a shit. So I'm starting to think, you know what? Maybe it's a case of he thinks he's healthy, but maybe he's got a slight ailment, but it's actually he's more injured than he thinks. It could be one of those things where he's not aware of how hurt he is. It's like kind of remember when Aaron Judge actually had a rib problem, and he was like, didn't he have like a problem with his lung or something, like it hurt his lung when he was and he wasn't aware of it, and it was undiagnosed for months, and it was affecting his play. Maybe it's a situation with Anthony Rizzo. Maybe he's got a neck injury that is undiagnosed, because it's just so weird. You can't forget how to hit in the space of a couple weeks since you're getting hurt. So I think there's something deeper to that. But I agree with you. I don't know what value he's got right now. So it might not even be worth bringing up. It's a shame. We love Anthony Rizzo, Italian, New Yorker. Doesn't get any better than that. But big Yankee fan. This is you. You want to root for these guys. Great player. You want to root for these guys. It's just, it's just a weird situation with Rizzo. Let's get to Gleyber Torres, because this, I think, is something that's going to be the most interesting debate. Gleyber Torres has been our best hitter, right? I think you could basically say, you look at this season, Aaron Judge aside, Gleyber Torres is our best player, right? I don't think there's any doubt about it. He's on a 10 or 11 game hitting streak right now. He's hitting the cover off the ball. His defense has been way below average this year. Unacceptable. Terrible defense this year. But offensively, he's been excellent. Well, okay, excellent is a stretch. Excellent for the Yankees, which isn't very high, right? In terms of the rest of baseball, he's been above average, right? But in terms of Yankees,
this season,
phenomenal, right? So where we're at with Torres is he's at the right age, because he's in his prime, where everyone else is looking like they're past their prime. He's actually someone that actually has value. He's got years on his side. He's someone that could actually continue to improve and progress, right? Where a lot of our guys are done, right? So when you think about that, you're like, do you really want to move on from that? But then you also think, at least he's going to command some value in return if you were to put him on the trade market. So this is where we're at. So people in the chat, everyone in the chat, give your opinion. Gleyber, stay or move. Let's start with Uncle T. Gleyber, stay or move.
Gleyber's he's so tough to figure out, because you might not ever see this value in him again. We've seen so many peaks and valleys with Torres over the years. If the move was right, I think that the Yankees have to make that call and make the move, because you're not going to extend him to a long-term contract, right? I think that's already evident. Despite, we know a lot of people want him to be. I don't see that myself. I don't see him getting a 5-year, 6-year deal, whatever it may be. If you're able to get something of a very high value for him, and obviously it would have to be in a package deal with other players. I think you have to make the move now because you need to start. If you're going to start bringing up some of these younger players, you also have to replace that productivity and that growth in the farm system. So I think that's where you look to make a move for, a package for, high value young prospects that you could try to put through the farm system. If they don't make a move, I don't think it's going to piss a lot of people off. I think that they would be very happy if he did stay.
Would you extend him in the offseason? If they weren't to trade him, would you extend him in the offseason, Uncle
No.
T? You wouldn't extend him. So then what value would he have?
No, because I need the room for I want Volpe and Peraza up the middle.
So then we should trade him right now. Then
but the move would have to be right to take that productivity off the team right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I get it, but you have to bear in mind that there is that an impending contract extension that needs to be discussed in the offseason. If we're not to move him right now, is he worth an extension? Let's bring Rob into the discussion.
I think you trade him right now. His value is up. He's coming off of a good year. He's following up with another good year. He has one more year of control, which is going to entice a lot of teams to want to take him because at least you get another year of him. And you run the risk because he does this a lot. He gets hot, he looks unstoppable, and then he gets cold. And then he gets hot again. But he's always around these numbers. Like his average numbers are solid. He's a solid player. And if you don't trade him, I think you have to extend him. The thing is, the Yankees have about 800 infielders that they want to use. They have Trey Sweeney, who's the closest, because now that we have Volpe and Peraza up here, you have Roderick Arias, who's going to shoot up the system very quickly. He's already mastering rookie ball, so he'll be in single A, high A, double A within the next couple of years, and you could see him be in the conversation in the next 2 years or so as a 21-year-old. You don't have enough places to put these guys. So you need to trade him now, I think. I don't know if there's a scenario where they keep Gleyber and extend him, and maybe you do trade Arias and Trey Sweeney in separate trades to try to help you win now. Because, if you're still going to go for a playoff spot, it's tough to move on from Gleyber Torres because he is your best hitter that's not named Aaron Judge. But you also have to bear in mind what Hal Steinbrenner said before the season. The future of the middle infield is Volpe and Peraza. That they're basically telegraphing Gleyber Torres is not a part of this future. They tried to trade him last year. They tried to trade him this offseason. So clearly they're looking to move him. And the fact that he's hitting again and he's having a good year, his value is up again. Now's probably the perfect time to trade him because if you wait till the offseason and he kind of regresses a little bit, you're not going to get as much. I think, Ellie, I trade him right now. And I don't want to move on from Gleyber. I like Gleyber Torres. I've liked him since we got him in the trade. I think the organization did him zero favors with the way they treated him. He had all the makings of an all-star, perennial all-star, just a good great all-around player, and they screwed him up. Another organization will fix him, guaranteed. They will fix him. And if you can get something for him, look what we got for Joey Gallo. Clayton Beeter is becoming one of our best pitchers in the system. I'd say trade him now while the value is up.
I mean, it's a good point. It's a great point. And this is something that I would have agreed with a couple months ago because I've been very much on the train of trading Gleyber. But I'm looking at the situation now, and I wasn't expecting DJ LeMahieu to fall off a cliff. DJ LeMahieu's weighted runs created plus is actually the second worst in baseball. Rizzo's was the fourth worst. So I wasn't expecting that because I'm a huge DJ LeMahieu fan. I think DJ LeMahieu, when right, is actually one of the best contact hitters in baseball. But I don't know what's going on with him this year and last year. And now it makes me think, do I actually want to trade Gleyber Torres? Because that means that DJ is going to have to play second base every single day. And I do think that you want someone who can actually help our young middle infield. I think we're pretty much all in on Peraza being third right now. Volpe is short. You kind of want a stable presence at second. Torres has played second all year long. I wonder whether you give him the rest of the year and see if he continues to get hot and continues to climb the ladder and give you some value there. I'm not happy with his defense, but you know what? I think he's one of the only Yankees that have actually shown up on a day-to-day basis. He actually shows that he actually looks like he cares. So it's a good debate because, again, you guys are right. He's the only one with any value right now.
Yeah.
You know? It's a great debate. I don't know. Like I think basically the consensus is in the chat, trade him. Right. Consensus between Rob and Uncle T is trade him. I can't believe it. I'm actually going to say I'm going to keep him for the rest of the year because
all right.
If you want to try and get it to a wild card, I think you probably want to keep him around because that means if you move him, that means you basically need DJ LeMahieu to play like he did a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure if he can do that now. And I know I sound like L.I. Yankee King because I wasn't expecting it. Got a DJ LeMahieu jersey in my freaking closet. I don't know what's going on with this guy. Oh, my God.
You know how crazy of a world it is? Because I said this on Twitter the other day. I was like, maybe L.I. Yankee King was right all along. He's been trying to move him all season. And we're not going to talk about trading DJ because he's got that no trade clause. And unless he's getting traded to, like, Baltimore or the Braves or a team that's, like, a lock to make the playoffs and go on a deep run, I don't think he accepts a trade anywhere else. Plus, who's taking him right now? Anyways, like you got 3 more years of this at $15 million a year of a clearly struggling player. Now, do I think this is him? No. Like Rizzo, I think he is definitely trying too hard, and he has to get fixed, and he has to just be what he was last year before the toe injury. No one's asking him to be a 330, 340 hitter anymore. Be 270, be 280, high on base, and all that stuff, but. Yeah, L.I. Stradamus, he was right all along, and I don't agree about trying to trade everybody, but he may have had a point where he said get rid of DJ now because if he was the GM first, I think this team would be in a little worse position, but he also would be answering some of our questions. Like he would have gotten if he had his way, DJ would be gone and Peraza would have been here all season long. But we'd also have Patrick Corbin. So let's a seesaw right there with L.I. Yankee King. But he was
Murphy's Law. The one time that L.I. Yankee King's not in our freaking chat is the one day we actually go, he was right.
He was right.
Well, shame on L.I. too, because when you have the title of your show, Players for Sale, and he's MIA, I'm actually a little worried about him. I think he needs a wellness check.
He's fine. He's licking his wounds because the Yankees are that bad. So let's move on. Obviously, shortstop. We know we're keeping Volpe. It's not a question. However, there is a Volpe issue because he's actually 9th worst hitter in baseball since May 20th in terms of WRC+. He looks bad right now. I think this is something that will need some work in the offseason. Work on his mechanics offensively, but positively his defense looks great, but he needs to get on base. You can't steal first base. Like he's got the speed. He's going to run all around the bases for you, but you can't steal first, as that saying goes. So we need to find a way for him to get on base, and he's not getting on base at a proper clip. So there is I think that the Yankees put too much pressure on Volpe. I think that they used him as an excuse, and it wasn't fair. Because there was a ton of shortstops that they should have gone. You name it. Seager. You name it. They should have gotten a proper shortstop, and they could have made Volpe our second baseman and at least eased him into the situation instead of just handing him the job. And I think it's unfair on him, an unfair amount of pressure because he shouldn't be in a position where he needs to carry this team. He's not there yet. But he looks like he's going to be a good prospect, but it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. But obviously, we're going all in on him. Do I think that he should be our shortstop? Actually, he's played better shortstop than I actually anticipated. He's played fine shortstop. But Peraza is the better shortstop. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He's a much better shortstop. But Volpe's been fine defensively, offensively. Apart from that couple of weeks stretch when Wells gave him a hand with his hitting mechanics, he looks shot again. And I think all this speaks to the Yankee coaching staff, the Yankees' lack of development, the Yankees' poor coaching staff, the Yankees' terrible hitting coaches, and I think all of that is on the Yankees and very little to do with Volpe. Volpe just needs his time. So we'll move on from shortstop. I think we all agree on that. I don't think we're seeing anything that's anything outlandish. Let's touch on third base. So because we're on 45 minutes, we're going to try and get this thing moving a little bit. We're on third base. What's your guys' thoughts on third base? Obviously, we've moved Josh Donaldson to the 60-day IL, which is great news. It looks like the end of Josh Donaldson. Uncle T, what are your thoughts on third base for the rest of the year and the offseason?
I would be okay if they kept Peraza at third, and had, although the argument to that is very easy to have two rookies on one side of the infield. It's not what's usually done. If they could, Spencer, if they're able to trade for a third baseman, see, here's where everything starts to connect and unravel at the same time. If it wasn't for, if Rizzo was Rizzo, we wouldn't have to worry about using LeMahieu at first base to get Rizzo some rest. Then we would have LeMahieu at third base. So you can't have Rizzo with LeMahieu at third, full time, because you need him to be able to move around the infield as a utility guy. We have a third baseman playing the outfield. So, with IKF and even Cabrera, it's everything is so out of whack that you could fix it 5 different ways with the players that are already here. Mm. But with not having you know what? If they make a trade for a left fielder, everything else can slide right into place.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as that, but it would certainly help things. But I agree with your original point. So you're okay going with Peraza for the rest of the year. And would you look to make a big move for a third baseman in the offseason? Maybe trade for like a Machado or something like that? Or
if you're gonna make a trade for a superstar like Machado, you might as well just go all in and get Soto. It's just one of those. Machado's older. I know he still has some life left to him. I don't know. I like Machado. 3 years ago when he was available, not even thinking about it.
Let's bring Rob into the discussion because he looks confused. Yeah.
I don't think trading for Soto and Machado is the same thing, but I get if you're going to go all in. But Machado just signed an extension. I don't think he's going anywhere. I would, if they do that, what they could do is trade Torres now, keep Peraza or just play Peraza at second after that, and move DJ to third base full time for the rest of the year, and then go after Matt Chapman. He's a free agent. Go after Matt Chapman.
He's fantastic. I'm in the Peraza train. Peraza is actually my favorite prospect. I think he's, my personal opinion, I think he's a little better than Volpe. I think he's a little further on than Volpe. I like his at-bats better, and I like his defense better. That's just my personal opinion. I'm a love Peraza, big Peraza fan. But there's one guy in our chat that isn't a fan of Peraza, and that's Elliot. I'm not enthusiastic about Peraza. It's interesting. Elliot, hit me. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about Peraza that you don't like? Personally, I think he's. I think that span, that day where he had those 4 walks and he got a base hit, those were the 5 best at-bats I've seen all year, apart from Aaron Judge. So, for somebody that's so young, I think that's an excellent sign. I don't think that the Yankees should be making him the leadoff hitter. I think that's a lot of pressure on the guy. I think he needs to be lower down the order, but they don't have a leadoff hitter. So, I love
the same thing with Volpe
defense. So, Rob, what are you thinking of Peraza?
Elliot said that if you put Peraza there is waving the surrender flag. Who else have we had at third base that was helping us win? So I don't see how that's surrender, because you were already surrendering by playing Josh Donaldson for as long as they did. They were surrendering by playing Franchi Cordero, even though he was our only hitter the other night. They've been surrendering all season. They just don't want to admit it. So at least when you go with Peraza, who, let's not forget, was our third best prospect going into last year. This is not some regular guy that's 27 and has been bounced around organizations all across the league. He's been with us since a international signing. He's come up the system quickly. He has proven to be ready for the major leagues. He's not a AAA player anymore. And now's the time to figure out what you have. I don't think that's surrendering by moving on with the youth. That's not, yeah, he's done a lot. In one at bat, he was already more productive. So, and he was already.
It didn't take a lot to be more productive than Donaldson.
Yeah,
no,
he's already fallen victim
You're
to
more
the
productive
Yankee
than
ways. Yeah, and clearly the Yankees' hitting ways have already gotten to him because he went from having one really good game where you couldn't get him out to then striking out like 3 times in the next 2. So it's like they said, hey, that's not what we do here. So they just swing for the fences, and all of a sudden his at-bats change. Like he had one day where he's taken every pitch. Like, you're not going to pitch to me. I'm taking first base. And he's got speed like Volpe that no one talks about. He can swipe second easily. And what do? The next game, he's swinging for the fences, and it's like now he can't get on base. So clearly, it doesn't matter who we trade for. We could go all in and trade for Juan Soto, right? Let's say that happens, and we go get Soto. We put him in left field. Judge comes back. We're going to make a run at this thing. Who's to say they won't change Juan Soto's ways, and all of a sudden he's just striking out left and right? His on base percentage plummets because that's what the Yankees do to players. They get them and they change. The fact that Joey Gallo did not work out here is exactly why this organization is just completely backwards, because he is the perfect Yankee. Joey Gallo was the perfect Yankee. We don't care about your average. Just get on base, hit for power, play good defense. And they screwed him up. So how do you screw up Joey Gallo? That is exactly why this organization is so far behind the 8 ball. So it doesn't matter if they blow it up with the roster. The whole front office needs to be blown up. And until we realize that's the issue, everything we've talked about today is just going to be like, I don't know. It's a mute point. Until they change the guy who's responsible for all this, this is all a mute point.
You know, Talking Jake had a really good point when he asked Aaron Boone. He's like, "Isn't the fan base is confused? You went from completely ignoring Peraza, right, and in favor of Josh Donaldson, and then you not only call Peraza up, but he's leading off. So you went from not like trusting him to him leading off within like a day. Doesn't it show that the Yankees don't actually have a plan, that they're very reactionary, that they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants? Like, nothing really makes a lot of sense. Like, they basically took on $50 million of Josh Donaldson, who's almost 40 for Christ's sake, and ignored their number 1 prospects in the process. That's a huge problem, and it screwed them. It's one of the worst deals in Yankee history, the Josh Donaldson deal. The best thing that Josh Donaldson's done for this organization is get hurt the other day, because at least we can move him to the 60-day IL. Never have to see his stupid fucking face again. Excuse me. What up, Mazza? Good to see you. Elliot is not a fan of Peraza. Peraza's hanging on. He doesn't show me he can thrive in MLB. I mean, I don't know what I don't think you've seen enough of Peraza for you to say that he's hanging on. I don't think he's hanging on at all. You know, it didn't look like he was hanging on the first day he got called up, and he got 4 walks and a base hit, and he had the RBI the night before that should have won us the game had Aaron Boone not mismanaged it. So, like, in my opinion, I've seen more Peraza than I have like half the Yankees this year in these 2 days. So I don't know. I like the guy. I think he needs to get the rest of the year, play every day in third base, and see what you got, right? At least you're learning something. And then you can decide. So that's where we're at third base. I think we all agree Peraza should see out the rest of the year. Never want to see Josh Donaldson's ugly face again. And we move on from him in the offseason. And then we make that an offseason decision whether to stick or shift with Peraza, or maybe move Peraza somewhere else in the infield. I think that makes sense. Let's get to the outfield. This absolute bumblefuck of a situation, this outfield, and let's close out the outfield situation. Let's start with Harrison Bader, who's hurt on a weekly basis. We were talking as of 6 weeks ago about the idea of extending him. I think that's off the table now. Let's start with Uncle T.
Thanks for the postseason hype, but see you later. I think that sums it up. You gave us something to look forward to in the postseason. We all gave you I think everybody, us, the chat, and fans overall, saw that and gave you ample opportunity to strive in center field for us because we haven't had a center fielder in so freaking long. We all wanted so bad to rally around you. You can't stay healthy.
Wow.
I'm sorry. We need players who are going to be able to stay healthy. We already have 2 outfielders that are on the IL every year, whether they're fault or not.
NFE gets the star of the one outfield. He's spot on.
To be fair, Bader did this latest injury. I think he just got hit by a pitch, right? So it's hard to be like, hey, wear it, put some ice on it, kid. Like that. I'm sure that shit hurts. So, he's not on the IL yet. So let's hope. But then again, the Yankees never know when a player needs to go on the IL or not. Although they put Donaldson on there very quickly, which is telling me that we know what they're doing. He's fine. They just don't want him playing. This is the only way they can do that and not have to cut him so they can be like, well, we couldn't play him if he's hurt. This is their way of not having to wave that white flag.
Isn't this show how ridiculous this organization is? Because weeks ago, Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone spent all of their press conferences telling us how we're wrong and Josh Donaldson's going to turn it around and he's fantastic. So they've been lying to us because the actions speak louder than words. They just, once again, mouth vomited all over the fan base. But in reality, they saw exactly what we saw. The guy sucks.
Mm-hmm. No, and Nikki brings it up that Bader was always healthy before he got here. We traded for him when he was hurt, and he's gotten hurt every maybe like month or so since, like every other month. So the Yankees, I don't know if it's a curse. That's obviously the running gag here. Like the Yankees are just a cursed team. But if you can get something for Harrison Bader, I'm sure that's a team that's like, we can use a 4th outfielder, defensive replacement in the outfield in the late games, the playoffs. He's got a decent enough bat. And yeah, Jonathan, at this point, I don't think he does, but I would really like to see it. I think if the Yankees were smart, and these next 2 weeks until the deadline, they just play 500 ball, they're gonna end up going for it because they're gonna be like, look, we're still in this thing. But if they're smart, they're gonna say, just like they did in 2016, it's not good enough because 2016 they were still in the race, but they said, look, we got to make something change. We got to change something here. I think this year you're looking at the same thing because 2021 they were in this boat where they were like hovering around 500, a little bit above. They were in it. They got Gallo, they got Andrew Heaney, they got Rizzo. They went for it. But this year, I think you have to sell off pieces. So if a team gives you something for Bader, take it. If a team gives you something good of value for Glaber, you do it. Domingo Germán, you do it. Your bullpen arms. If someone says, hey, we want Clay Holmes badly, we're going to give you these prospects because he's got years of control, do it. You find bullpen arms out of the dumpster and turn them into good guys. So do it. Wandy Peralta, do it. If you can move on from players, do it because I'm telling you right now, this team is not making a World Series run the way it's constructed. As good as Aaron Judge is, you need to give him time when he comes back. He hasn't been able to play for over a month. So you're going to expect him to come back in one game. He's got to drive in 7 runs on his own. That's what we're looking at to save this offense. And that's not even an exaggeration because they can't score without him. So he needs to come back and then he needs to drive in 3 or 4 on his own just to be able to make this a serviceable offense. Move what you can, and you can still stay competitive in the process by giving some of these kids a shot because you can't get worse than what you're getting right now. You
so
really get worse.
Similar to 2016, then you're saying?
Yes.
Bader, I don't think we can extend him now. I like him though. Do you think there's a trade out for him in the deadline, or do we stick him out for the rest of the year?
I don't know who with this season. I know he's not in the lineup lately because of the hit by pitch, and it's unfortunate. It all comes down to don't just move on from guys just to move on from them for a new face. And I think that's where a lot of the pressure is going to be on Cashman because he can't screw this up. If there's any way to salvage this season in 2 months, he has got to be this has to be his most impactful and creative deadline that he's had.
I would be very concerned if I, as a Yankee fan, about Brian Cashman making any more moves.
This one's interesting, guys.
That's exactly what you just said. He's not earned the right for another rebuild, and all the moves that he's made has failed. So at this stage, do you trust him to make another bunch of trade deadline moves? And I have to say no. So I think we're probably better off selling off some pieces and regaining some assets. But the problem is we've gone through this roster for the last hour, and the only name is Gleyber Torres that has value immediately, and that's on the major league roster, and that's a problem. So let's get into the left field situation. So we got IKF, who I think is valuable as a role player, but he's not an everyday player. The Yankees are playing him as an everyday player. I think if someone came in with a trade offer for him, you do it. But he's been solid. He's been everything you could ask for him this year. You certainly want these kind of guys around, but he's not moving the needle. We've got Ozzie, we've got this whole mess of a situation in left field. So, guys, what do we do about left field? This is the big one, right? This is what we'll close the podcast on. What do we do about left field in the deadline? Do you make a deal for Bellinger? Do you make a deal for Grischuk or whatever from Colorado, or maybe somebody from the Cardinals? There's a couple of buy-low, maybe high upside guys from the Cardinals that you could acquire to play the outfield. Or do you maybe just go within maybe Florial or Pereira? What do you think?
Hashtag Flea Florial. That's it.
So no deal for Bellinger, not in the Bellinger.
No. And I said I don't want a guy that's going to come over as a rental, give us 2 weeks, and then fall on their face. We've seen this before. Maybe it's, Scott Braun used the term, we have Gallo PTSD, where a lot of the fans are hesitant to bring over rentals, because they play well, they get the extension, and then they fall off. So I'd rather stay in-house because
you're all in on sell. You're all in on sell.
Yeah. No, I've hit that point. Just sell everything.
But there is still a shot. Then, do you really want to be in that position when you got Garrett Cole, who's pitching like a Cy Young candidate, and you got Aaron Judge, who might be back next week? Don't you want to have maybe a little bit of help around them that they could sneak a wild card spot?
I don't know. I know they're trying to. The scary thing is they're rushing Judge back. So
True.
I think they're going to rush him back. He's going to have a setback, and he's going to be back on the IL. I'm in that mindset where, look, the writing is on the wall. Look at the way we've been playing. We can't beat the bottom teams. What's going to happen if we're just going to get embarrassed in the playoffs? So just retool this whole freaking team and just hit reset and worry about next year. Let the kids come up, see what they got. They're worried about payroll. They want to bring the number down. They just made a deal for a stupid fucking patch for $25 million and then cry that they have no money to increase the payroll. So they don't want to go over a luxury tax. They have no plan. And if you have no plan, you have no chance.
Rob.
I think they're going to get a left fielder. I don't know if it's going to be Bellinger because he's got a market for him. He's the best bat available. We don't know if Ohtani's available yet. We don't know if Soto's available yet. We know that Bellinger's probably going to be out there, considering he's a rental. But teams are going to be looking for that. The Giants could want him. Texas Rangers could want him. Even if the Padres start winning some games between now and the deadline, they could want him. So I don't know if Bellinger gets here, but the Yankees have a bunch of Rule 5 guys. That's what they always do. They move some Rule 5 guys to get a rental player. Last year, that was with Benintendi. They could do something similar like that this year. Maybe you get Grichuk, you stick him in left field for the rest of the year, just so you have an actual outfielder, and you don't have to rush a kid like Pereira up here. Although I would like to see Pereira get up here because I think he's killing it in AAA. But it might be just a little bit too soon, although at this point I don't care. But Florial should be up here. He should have been up here months ago. He should be up here now. And you can still go out and get a left fielder like Grichuk for some Rule 5 guys. And say we're still preparing for the future, but we're still trying to go at least get there this year. And who knows? Because we don't know yet. If Aaron Judge comes back, he's 100% and hits like Aaron Judge, the rest of the lineup is going to start hitting. That's just how it works when he comes back. That's how good he is. And if you get another good bat and a good glove to play left field, and Grichuk always kills us, it'd be nice to have him on our side for once. You have a serviceable outfield of Florial in center, Grichuk in left, Judge in right. Maybe some of these other bats start to pick up. Volpe can get back into the swing of things. They don't move him around the lineup again. Peraza's there. You can still salvage something of this season while preparing for next year. So I think they should do both. If to answer the whole question that's in the title, buy or sell or both, do both because you can. You can do both, and you can move some pieces, prepare for the future, and still try to win this year because as bad as it is, they aren't out of it. And that's the crazy thing. They aren't out of it. So every time they say we're still in this thing, it's not, they don't control their own destiny. So Aaron Boone has to stop saying that crap, but they are still in it. So give up? No. But prepare for the future? Yes.
Pick a direction. Exactly, Rob. Exactly, Tats. It's all about picking a direction. The Yankees just don't have a direction right now. They went into this year without a direction. And that's what the biggest problem I have with Brian Cashman and the way he's run this organization is he's not really picked a direction. He says that we want to win, but he doesn't take the steps necessary to win. You know, he's set about this plan where the analytics guys control the game, control how the game is managed. There's very little wherewithal from Aaron Boone to actually manage. And now we're seeing a situation where our relievers are overworked because, you know, our starters only give you 5 innings unless your name is Garrett Cole. So now they're all toast. And now the ERA has gone from our top 5 bullpen in the majors to like mid. Right. And that's all about the way that the organization has managed on a day-to-day basis. You know, when everybody was healthy in April and May, what were the Yankees doing? They were taking games off. And what did it and how far did it get us? Because everybody got hurt anyway. Right. So this is what I'm talking about. You look at last year's playoffs and you were saying, you know, you never take the playoffs for granted, Spencer, in an earlier comment. Well, exactly. But the Yankees did because they took games off in the playoffs. They were like, "Oh, we've got weeks. We're gonna plan ahead." You know, like they took game 1 of the championship series off, right? And what did it lead us? It lead to us getting swept. So this organization says they give it a lot of mouth that we want to win. We do everything it takes to win, but they don't take that step to win. Like they don't manage like they want to win, and then they don't manage their roster like they want to win. If Brian Cashman was honest with us and honest with himself and honest with the organization, he would have looked at being swept by the Astros and the fact that, you know, this Josh Donaldson thing was a complete disaster. Aaron Hicks was a complete disaster. Shortstop merry-go-round was a disaster. The infield situation that was a problem last year was a disaster. He should have looked at all that and gone, I need to be honest. I need to take my pride aside and say, you know what, I screwed up. I need to fix this in the offseason. He didn't do that. Instead, he blamed us as fans. He said that we booed and we weren't fair on his players and all this shit, and that the sweep was not a big issue. It was all about the roof or the sun or the rain or the fucking wind, right? So he blamed us for his failings, right? And now, I'm sorry. It's all come home to roost for him now. That's the facts. It's all come back to roost from Brian Cashman because he's built this roster. You look at this $300 million roster without Aaron Judge, and it's a piece of shit. That's just the facts, right? We've got guys that are good. I love Big G. I love DJ LeMahieu. I love Anthony Rizzo. But they're on the downturn of their careers, right? And they've got very limited, if any, value now. None, actually. You can make that argument. And the rest of the roster, it's up in the air. There's a bunch of quadruple A guys, a bunch of journeymen, and guys that aren't fit to wear a Yankee jersey. And that's just the facts, right? And now you're going to ask Peraza and Volpe to try and make Brian Cashman look good. He screwed this whole fucking thing up. But we are in this situation where you got Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge, and you can't completely sell with those guys. It's not completely the same as 2016 because you've got those guys. You've got Aaron Judge, who's generational. Go Garrett Cole is generational pitcher. You need to try and compete with them. So my suggestion is what Rob says: do both. So you sell the pieces that you need to, right? Try and retain some kind of assets, right? You want to trade off some of these Rule 5 guys because you want to free up room in the 40-man. You know that they're going to be picked up in the Rule 5 draft anyway, so you might as well trade some of these off in the trade deadline. You want to free up some spots in the 40-man, right? And yes, I would bring in a veteran left fielder to try and sort out this merry-go-round, which is a complete joke, and it was all on Brian Kaplan for this left field merry-go-round. You fix that, and then we're at least we're something. We're doing something, right? At least you're like, okay, well, we can compete on a day-to-day basis, but you also want to look ahead for 2024 because what we all can agree on is none of this can be fixed in the next week. It can't be fixed in the next week. You can bring in a piece that can maybe keep us competitive on a day-to-day basis, but a full-blown rebuild needs to happen in 2024 off-season and this upcoming off-season, and it starts with a new general manager. Now, we know that Hal Steinbrenner is not going to do that, but that's what needs to happen. But I do agree with bringing in a left fielder, veteran guy. It's not going to cost too much, but I would go all in on the younger guys, as we mentioned. So I think I would give an opportunity to Everson Pereira, and I would even give Florio a shot. Why not? And I would definitely bring in up Wells and Peraza. Let's bring in some youth. Let's bring in some energy, and then bring in a veteran left fielder to help Aaron Judge out. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That you're planning ahead, but you're not completely giving up on the season. And you never know. What do you guys think on that?
No, I go ahead, Rob.
Finish what you were going to say.
No, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to. I want to go back to being that positive fan. But when you look at the last few series between Oakland and the Cubs and Colorado, getting embarrassed against the Angels, who knows what we're going to be able to do against Kansas City. There's another bottom team that would just, at this point, we're equal with. So, that's why I'm not as optimistic as I normally am. Do I want them to sell everybody? No, but at this point, like I said, to end my statement, if the Yankees have no plan, then what's their chance? No plan equals no chance. And nothing's going to change until it changes at the top, which is never going to freaking happen anyway. And I don't want to keep this discussion, keep dragging.
No, you get it. Rob, what are you thinking, man?
Right now, I think you have to try to do both. You have to try to salvage it. But these next, 12 games or whatever, 11 games, or this series against Kansas City, if we sweep them like we should, and maybe we split with the Mets, that's 5 games. You go 4-1 in these next 5, and then you got Baltimore and Tampa Bay. You got 3 against Baltimore, and then you got 1 versus Tampa before you hit the deadline. Then that series continues, obviously. But this is it right here. This next week basically decides your season. So if they beat up on Kansas City, they hopefully take 1 against the Mets. They could be right back in a playoff spot for all we know. And all of a sudden, they're back to they're being a buyer. So
it's going to decide. This next week or so is going to decide.
Yeah, these next 5 games, really.
As Sunil says here, steer into or away from the iceberg. Well, yeah, the Yankees are the Captain Titanic. That's definitely where they are right now. My favorite Sunil comment was regarding Uncle Tats and going down with the Titanic. Uncle Tats, are you going to go down with the Titanic? Is singing the Uncle Grandpa Tats is singing the main verse from Celine Dion's Titanic track. My heart will go on. You're here. There's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. Tats, are you going down with the ship?
I'll never jump off the Yankee ship. I'm pissed off, and the fucking Yankees broke me. What do you expect? The Rays just lost 11 out of 14. Baltimore slips in the first place. Everybody gained ground with Tampa's falling off, and the Yankees lost ground. What's to be fucking optimistic about?
Well, the violin player, the orchestra is playing as the ship is sinking. I'm sorry, I'm on the freaking lifeboat. I ain't going down with Cashman and Boone. I'll wait till someone else, an actual decent manager, comes in before I go down with that freaking ship. But yeah, Celine Dion singing, the fat lady singing, but we're still fucking going. And that's how I'll finish off this podcast. Thanks so much for everyone joining in. I'll keep your dates up. Well, there you go. What can I say? Thanks, Celine Dion. I hated that song. And freaking dumb movie. Anyway, we love you guys. Go watch The Morning Brew. We will see you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Salute everybody. You take care, and we'll see you next time.
And as always, like I say, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.
The ship